Hello, everybody. And today I want to show you guys how I do my water changes. I've shown you guys this before, but it all changes a little bit here and there, and people always asking questions. How often do you change your water? What do you use when you change your water? And so I'm going to go through. We're going to change water in all my tanks. This is a weekly chore I do every single week. I do a water change on every single tank, every single week, minus my soft water Caradina Fancy Tiger tank. But all the other tanks get a weekly water change, and I'll show you how I do it. Now, I'm not saying this is the way you gotta do it or this is the way it needs to be done, but what I'm trying to do, which is breed a whole bunch of shrimp, which means I feed a lot, so I do a lot of water changes. I need to do a lot of water changes, so I thought I'd go through. Look at this sponge right here. This is a hot spot. So I gotta do my water changes, and I'll show you guys how I do it. I'm not saying you guys need to do it the way I do it, because everyone's tanks serve a different purpose. But for me, maybe you can pick up on some of the tricks I use to change water, because I've got it down to pretty good science. I've been doing this every week for a long time in a lot of tanks. So I've got it worked down. Maybe you guys can pick up something on how I do it. So let's get started. So actually my fish room is divided into 3 different areas now. We have the stuff back here in the back of the house, and that is all this stuff. And then in the closet, we have all this stuff, and this tank is also back here. Then we gotta go to the front of the house. Then we have in the living room, we have this is the tank that's going to be redone. We have the 75-gallon Green Jay tank. Then we've got the moss pond, and then we got to go to the very, very front of the house, and that is my bedroom. We've got this in the bedroom, this in the bedroom, and this is the soft water Fancy Tiger tank. This is the one that we don't do a water change on every week, but we'll get into this tank later. The first tool we have is the ever trusty Python, and the Python, we'll be using that to drain water and to fill. And so now you can see we got the Python sucking water out to the sink. And then while this gets started, then we're going to get our other tools. And now our other tool is a pump attached to the Python. I actually had to unplug the light here when I pumped the water out. So that's pumping out, and this is pumping and this is draining to my bathtub. So the pump pumps out to the garden hose, to the bathtub. And the Python is mainly for filling, but I also use it to drain when I'm draining 2 tanks at the same time to speed things up. All right, so we've got this drain down to where we want it to go. And notice this tank is still, this goes slow, being sucked out with the Python. But while we're waiting on this 75-gallon to drain with the Python, then we'll go to the next tank with the pump. So then we pull the hose and the pump down into here. And I also have to unplug the light to this tank to work the water change pump in here. So now this water's draining out, and this water's draining out all at the same time. It's all to speed up the process. So you can see this is my 75-gallon, and this is the Green Jay tank. I've said that before. You guys are all doing super good. This tank has been an algae battle going on for months now. Well, I have a lot of tanks that have been an algae battle here lately, but all the shrimp are happy, everything's good, so I'm not too worried about it. And then over here we have the moss pond. This is where I sell all my moss out, and also have my backup for my own line of guppies that I have here. And then this is an experiment we started a month ago or so, trying to grow crypts growing up out of the water in my filter here, and they're starting to sprout. They're not sprouting super fast, but you can tell they're just now taking hold and getting that immersed growth. Pretty cool to watch the process unfold with crypts. Crypts is not a plant I've grown up out of the water before, so this is a fun experiment. Alright, so now we're filling, but before we filled, we dosed the tank with safe, and that is how I make my water safe. My water contains no chlorine, but it contains very, very low amounts of chloramine, so I have to dose some safe to make sure. So now this guy's filling up, then we'll fill this one, and while all that's going on, this blue jelly pond has drained out about enough water. So now we're going to pull it out, give it a shake, make sure we don't have any of the wrong shrimpies on there, and then we take it over here to this 75-gallon Blue Dream tank. And now we're sucking water out of that while we're filling in the other room. Alrighty, so now this one is full, and then we'll start filling up over here. Alright, now we got this tank drained down enough. We don't do huge water changes on this tank. That's good enough. And so now we're going to unplug that and pull this hose and this pump all the way to the back room. So while those are all going, I dragged the hose and pump back here to the Bloody Mary pond, and it is draining. And while this is draining, we will fill up the ones that we've already drained in the front of the house. Alright, so with this tank, this is a soft water tank, and it's a lot different. So in this tank, I don't feed nearly as much. And so I'm doing a water change like maybe once every month, maybe. But I do top off twice a week for evaporation with pure RO water. So that's good. I'm only seeing like one little baby out right now, but oh, there's another one. So we got some things turning around. There's about 10 babies in here, and I'd say there's probably like 7 or 8 adults at this point. So this tank is showing some promise, but this one is completely different than all the other Neo tanks. So this is a blue jelly pond, and there's a bunch of plecos in here. Look at all of them. We got tons of moss. The algae in here isn't so bad. It was, but and we've got moss blooming, moss flowering. That's kind of cool. Big pieces of mermaid weed. And so this one's filling up. Then we'll fill this one up. And now we're finally filling up the last tank in the bedroom, the 75-gallon Blue Dream tank. And this tank, I finally am starting to get the algae under control. We still got some cloudiness in here, but this tank is really turning around. I've only got one of the 3 lights plugged in, and this is the one by the window that gets too much sunlight, which causes a bunch of algae problems. So I cut way back on the light. The moss is still happy, and the algae's calmed down, but it's still a work in progress. And again, the shrimp don't care. I don't know if I've ever had this many shrimp in a tank before that's in this tank right now, because I haven't even put any food out. This is just how densely they are populated just naturally. There's no food or anything. There's just thousands and thousands of Blue Dream shrimp in this tank right now. Alright, we'll finish filling this one up, then we'll go on. The whole front of the house will be done. And here's a little fun thing I'm gonna show you because I don't ever see them. No, it's gone now. Oh, there it is. Some house shrimp decided to start living in the filter. So now we have a, I don't know how many of these guys I got because they found a way to get in there somehow and they seem to be thriving. If I can easily catch them out, I will, but no harm, no foul type of thing. They've got to be climbing up over the edge somehow. So that is unfortunate, but I just now started noticing that here recently. So we may have more shrimp in here than I even thought, because I'll catch a couple out, and I'll see a couple more, and I'll catch a couple out, and I'll see a couple more, and they're always different ones. So I'm not sure. So hopefully we got a lot more shrimp in here than I thought. Alright, so now we're done with the front of the house, and now we're back here with everything else. The first thing I do when I come back here is pull this off, and we have a little baby one I made to do the 20 longs. And so the next step is going to be draining down all the tanks in the closet. We do the 40s with the pump, and I do the 20s with the Python. And so this will usually the pump pumps it out faster, and there's 10 20s and only 8 40s, and usually the 40s are done a tank before the 20s are. So this one's good enough. We're not doing huge water changes here. What we're doing, I'd say about, some are 20%, some are a little less. The tanks with a lot of plecos and stuff, I do close to 50. Usually, not always. So we'll wait for this to drain down, and so that's what we're doing. I have a certain order. I start up at the top, over here, and I go this, to 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 this. Then when we fill back up, we start down at the bottom. We go from this to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, to this. The same thing as over here. We drain them all down and we start up. I start off, we drain this, 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 this. Then we come over here and drain this, 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 and this. Then we fill up this in the exact reverse order. And so the last one the first one we drain is the last one we fill up. All right. This one's pretty close, so we'll shake all the shrimps that like to get on the pump off. And we'll do a big water change on that one. This tank we worked on, we did a reset and pulled out all the moss, and now we're having some difficulty adjusting to all the big changes we made a couple weeks ago. That one's low enough, and we'll go down to this one. So it's just a process of draining them, and then we'll check back in when we get the filling back up. Okay, so we started to process the filling. Now this tank is an orange project tank I've been working on. Actually, it has, you may ask why it has 2 lights on it. It's so dim, and that's because both these lights were on their way out. Instead of throwing them out, I thought maybe 2 dim lights could get the job done, and it was for a while. But then this one right here is completely not really putting out any light. So I do have new lights. I've got to replace some lights on these tanks. So I have a new pack of lights, and so we're filling up. We'll fill from there to there, and we'll come over here, from there to there, and then we'll come over here, from there to there, and then get all these 40s filled. And then while we're filling these tanks, you always gotta, to speed the process along, I'm always draining and filling whenever possible. And so now the pump is pumping this tank out. It's all about being efficient when you got this many tanks and do it every single week. And so this little tank here, tucked down here where it's really hard to get at, is like a project backup line for snowballs. Special project and a backup type of thing. Well, and when you have this many tanks and you're just trying to breed as much stuff as possible, not every tank can be a show tank, but this is a tank with algae on the glass. But you see here, it is a blue jelly tank, a blue jelly project tank, and it also serves as a backup to my other ones. I very rarely, if ever, sell any shrimp out of this tank. It's just to make sure, in case something goes wrong with another tank, I have these guys as a backup. That's what this tank is. And so this tank here is a project where I'm trying to make the blue Bloody Mary Rilleys. And it's still at the stage where I'm just letting them breed out now, because what I was after is proving to be fairly difficult. But we're getting some good ones pop up. But I think this is going to have to be another tank that we let breed out and then separate again, because we're not getting, the first batch of babies were all like lower grade Bloody Mary type of shrimp. But we do have some blue Rillies over here that are born, so there is hope. There is hope. And then this tank here is my very best green jade special project I've been working on. And there's a few lighter ones I need to pull out. Most of these shrimp are spectacular green jades. Look at that one. Woo! There's some good ones in here. Alright, and here's the ugliest, most worthless tank in the house. This tank has just been struggling. It's a backup blue jelly tank that, for whatever reason, all I can grow is algae and the shrimp don't even do good. So this tank is a mystery to me. It's one of those, well, dang it, I don't know. And so now we're filling up this one, the next one. And this tank is a special Bloody Mary project. And this tank was doing not good for a long time, but now I noticed the shrimp are breeding and the algae subsided. So we're doing good now. I'm happy about this tank. This tank is where I'm making my own red Rillies. Attempting to anyway. And the pluggers are always spawning. Looks like, unless you feed, power feed baby plecos, you usually end up losing some. But and there's a dead one right there. You've seen a bunch of shrimp eating it. And that's alright, because we have enough plecos. So we've got some really good Bloody Mary Rillies, red Rillies. These are not Bloody Mary Rillies, these are just regular red Rillies. But the problem I'm seeing is lots of the babies are still red, some aren't. So I think what we're going to do here is every 3 or 4 months, we're going to pull everything out and reset it. So then once the babies that are born in here start growing up and start getting buried, then we'll pull out all the ones that we want to keep. But we definitely have some good keeper shrimp in here. It's just going to be a process of working out all the reds that keep popping up. And so this tank is a Blue Dream special project. We have only the very, very absolute best Blue Dreams in here. And this is the tank I wish all my other tanks would act like. We very rarely, if ever, have even a piece of algae in here. It's only a 20-gallon long, and it has a 40-watt light on it, so it gets hammered with light. compared to my other tanks. The shrimp do so good. I wish every tank went like this tank does. So it's like 20 long with the same light, 20 long with the same light, 20 long with the same light. This one is an algae crap show. This one struggled and was an algae, you know what, and got better. This one just has a 20-watt light and never has any issues. And then this one, this is the one I wish they all did this good. This top 20 over here on this side is a red project tank where I'm trying to breed out some of the best reds. And it's kind of frustrating because no matter what I do, I cannot get solid good reds consistently out of this line I've had for years and years and years. So I'm thinking about trying to get some new genetics for this tank and go hard after a fire red. I'm trying to grade up my Sakuras to be really truly fire reds, but getting these red males to be good enough seems to be out of the question. I've worked, and you still get lots of lesser males, which I guess that's the name of the game with most Neo lines, but with these reds, it's even more the case. Beautiful, beautiful females are a dime a dozen. Super good males are like hen's teeth. Alright, so now we're filling up the 40s. The first one is the Skittles, and I don't have any food out or anything, so there's not a lot to look at. They're all tucked in and doing their shrimp thing and hiding right now. But this is the Skittles tank. This is where all the tanks pretty much where I pull culls. I do have a couple tanks where I keep the lesser separate, but for the most part, this is where I bring all the shrimp that are going out of a project for whatever reason. Alright, so please excuse the dirty glass. This tank has been doing really good. It has a little bit of algae there in the moss, but not a lot. We've got Mermaid Weed Farm and moss, and the shrimp in here are what I sell as blue velvets. They are the splotchy blue dreams, and whatever shrimp I throw in here, they all breed together, and you get there's lots of super good blue dreams in here because they all come from really good genetics, and they're just a little splotchy, the ones I put in here. So these are pretty good shrimp. So this is one situation where not all the culls go in the Skittles, but I keep my blue dreams separate. They're just a little splotchy, they're still looking good. So another tank, most of these 40s have really dirty glass because these are tanks I make my living off of. These are not show tanks, so keep that in mind. Alright, and look at these green jades. This is a green jade 40 gallon. This tank is really coming along as far as the shrimp go. I'm cutting out pieces of Ludwigia. I think I'm gonna take out the mermaid weed because I've got mermaid weed going really good in here. And this tank is gonna get some work because we've got some algae issues and just kind of an ugly tank, even though the shrimp are doing really good. I want to start growing some different plants in this tank as well. So this is another tank. Be looking for a video coming up on me redoing this tank. Alright, now this tank filling up now is my 40 gallon Bloody Mary tank. And we've got lots of little guys breeding out in here right now. Lots and lots. I've been trying not to sell these guys out of this tank, letting them breed back out. And we've got our long, thin green dragons in here that have been spawning. We get lots of short fin and long fin. I don't know why this zoomed in like that. You can see here a nice, those are mostly long fins right there. There are some that are short fins. I wonder if they have eggs in there right now. That would be cool. All right, we're filling up this tank. This is my 40-gallon Blue Dream tank, and it's doing really good right now. I've finally managed to get rid of all the algae in this tank. I don't think there's any algae in this tank right now, which is super good considering. So, if you get a chocolate bristlenose pleco from me, this is the tank it comes from, because this is why this tank is so cloudy all the time, because we have way too many plecos in here. These guys, they just relentlessly spawn and spawn and spawn, even when I don't want them to. Oh man. And so, this is just like a pleco and Blue Dream shrimp machine. This tank does so good, even if it's not looking super awesome right now, because the plecos are constantly digging and doing pleco things to disturb the tank. But the tank is doing good. Rotala, finally, this Rotala hadn't been doing so hot for a while because of the algae issues. I got rid of the algae issues, and boom, we got a lot. The Rotala's booming. I've been trying to sell this tank down. I get it down, and then boom! This is a 40-gallon tank, and every Blue Dream I've ever sold has come from this tank. I'm trying to get it sold down. I started my 75-gallon over a year ago now to also have Blue Dreams available, because this was selling, and it still never did stop selling. But I just keep having the Blue Dreams in here, just keep baby booming. And even though I'm trying to sell it down and start selling out of the 75, so I want to sell this down to nothing and then restart it with a project Blue Dream line. But this is my original Blue Dream line. I call, and I've restarted it 2 or 3 times over the years. And these guys are beautiful. So this tank serves some purposes, and it used to serve another purpose. It used to be my old yellow line, and then there's still hints of yellow in here. The yellows, they quit breeding with each other, and then since the yellows weren't doing anything, I threw in a ton of reds. Then as soon as I threw reds in here, the yellows started getting buried that were left. So there's still hints of yellow. There's still pretty decent yellow shrimp in here. And most of the wild types that are in here are yellowish. It's mostly lots of reds, and I've also here recently been throwing my blue jelly culls in here. And I also purposely threw some blue jellies in here a long time ago to get red rillies popping up. Did that on purpose, and that's where my red rillies come from, where I started from, and now I'm lining them out. I put some blue jellies in here with the reds just to get them going, to see if I can get some rillies popping up. It worked, and I pulled them out, and like we talked about over here, this is where I'm isolating them out, trying to make them better and better. This is my 40-gallon blue jelly tank. Looking real good. Well, it don't look real good. It's a mess because we ripped out all the moss just a few weeks ago, and it's undergoing the changes of it's adapting to less moss. The whole thing was full of moss, and now there's like no moss. But while we've been filling these 40 gallons, we have drained this. We already drained that. We drained this guy. And now we're starting the process of draining these. Okay, so this is the last of the 40s. We have some algae growing in the moss, but it's not too bad. But one thing is for sure about this tank is the shrimp population has exploded I'm really, really happy with how these guys are looking right now. I've got tons and tons of orange shrimp. And I think they look really good. I've put a lot of work into this tank here lately. And I'm super happy with how it's looking. Lots of orange shrimp. Alright, now we have got the closet finished. All 10 20 longs and 8 40-gallon breeders are finished. And now we go to the 75-gallon, my guppy tank, the Rainbow Lightning Guppies. The line I've created myself. And so we have some hair algae things trying to grow up here. The super bright light, but this tank is still kind of new and still adjusting, so that's to be expected, I reckon. We also have shrimp in here. These were the ones I was able to catch from outside. And then let's see if we can find one. All my green dragon plecos, the longfin green dragons, when they throw short fins, I've been catching them out and putting the short fin plecos in here. So there's a good amount of short fin green dragon plecos in here. I'm not seeing any right now. I did just see one before I hit record. But there's some in here getting pretty good size, and some are still pretty little, the plecos. You can see the crypts in here are doing magnificent. And we got the green guy spreading through the rocks. That's pretty awesome looking right there. And we've got all kinds of guppies. Guppies, guppies, guppies. These are the guppies that I made my line. Put some really good ones outside in the spring and pulled them all out. And put them in here. All the ones I caught out. I've sold a whole bunch of them, but it's getting to be too cold to be selling guppies too. Getting to be winter time. So I'm going to be stuck with a lot of these guys. Something else about this tank I'll show you guys. I'm glad I did. I ended up having to put a valve on here because the pump ended up being way too strong. So when I'm doing water changes, I got to turn it way down. Because if you turn it all the way up, you get water spraying out of the tank. So when I'm doing my water changes, I close it like 50-60% of the way, and that slows it down enough not to make a mess. I'm glad I put that valve there. So while we was filling up all those other tanks, we were draining out using the pump and the hose to empty out the rest. All the tanks are drained. The hose and pump are put up, and now we're just waiting to fill. This is the Bloody Mary pond. We've got lots of good shrimps in here. I've been working my butt off on this thing lately, getting it culled down. Every once in a while, I've been breeding them to be dark, because that's what I like. The dark Bloody Marys. And when you do that, you end up getting some black ones popping up. That's what I've been doing. Working on getting the black roses pulled out that these guys keep dying, because black rose and Bloody Marys are very, very closely related. We got lots of Bloody Marys in here. Alright, so now we got this tank filling up. This is my, well, at one point I had so many guppies in the 75 when I was pulling them out of the pond. The tank was guppy soup, and I didn't feel comfortable putting any more guppies in a new tank. So I just started dumping what I could catch out in here. And I also throw the culls in here as well. And then there was the remnants of a panda guppy line in here. So that'll be kind of fun, seeing what panda guppies mixing with my Rainbow Lightning Guppies will make. And it's also got tons and tons of jungle val. Alright, we finally made it over here to the 20 highs. Filling up. We got a blue jelly tank. This tank always looks like crap. Always has algae. And the moss grows crazy wild. But the shrimp are always breeding and doing awesome in here. I let this side of the glass, I let the glass get really bad, except for the front, because the shrimp love it. And I love to see the shrimp breed and do good. We've got lots of little babies in here. This tank is doing really good. And then here we have my little bare bottom. This is my main snowball shrimp tank. Snowballs. We got little snowballs. I call them snowballs because they're white and their eggs are white little balls and they look like snowballs. I try to keep this tank as bare as possible because algae lately seems to like to grow here. And here we have another Blue Dream Project tank. These guys are all super good. I'm excited about my new plant in here. I got some bulbitis. The top of it isn't really doing nothing, but we're sending out lots of growth down here at the bottom that looks really good. Excited about that plant. This tank's been doing super good. This tank very rarely has any algae in it. And these tanks always are full of algae. They have the same freaking lights on them. So again, one of those things like, I don't know, man. This one's even close to a window. So this one does so good. Never any algae. Beautiful, beautiful Blue Dream shrimp. I'm so happy with this tank. One of my favorite tanks. This is the Bloody Mary Relay tank. I just actually reset this tank just less than a week ago, and there's only like 10 or 12 shrimp in here. And they're little shrimp. There's one. So, not really easy to find. Oh, we found a hot spot down here. Bloody Mary Reallys. Some more Reallys I'm trying to create. I've been having fun with Reallys here lately. This is my old 75-gallon red tank, and we've got tons of new lemon blue-eye plecos that I think most of these are going to be long fins. Hopefully they are. We have long fins and short fin adults in here, and of course even when you have two long fins going, you get a mix. We got some nice red cherry shrimp in here. And this tank is going through a bit of an algae battle. It's not too bad. It's always grown off the filter. And so I just pull out, cut a little bit of algae every week. And that keeps this tank under control. So this tank's starting to get kind of crazy. It's going to need some attention here for too much longer. And then we've got this 20-gallon long on the floor underneath the 75. And this I've tried to do as an orange project a couple of different times. But for whatever reason, the shrimp in here just kind of end up not being good. I think what is happening is even when I take the tank all the way apart and shop vac the whole thing completely dry, I have not been doing it to the filter. And I'm thinking shrimp are living in the filter, and every time I reset this tank, there's bad shrimp that get in there and pollute the genetics. That is what I'm thinking, because my other orange tanks are doing so good, and every time I try to do an orange project in this tank, they don't do that good. So, I mean, they're not horrible orange shrimp. There's still some really, really good ones in here, but it's one of those, I think I'm going to have to tear apart the entire filter and everything next time I try to reset this tank. Keep the bad shrimp from getting back in there. And then finally, last but not least, are the 4 new 20-gallon longs. And since these are new shrimp from outside sources, I changed the water on these tanks last, and then this tank, and this tank are from homebred sources, while this tank and these beautiful shrimp are from an imported source. So we're going to drain and fill these 3 tanks, and then we'll drain and fill this tank last. And so this is the new Black Rose tank. Most of the shrimp in here are pretty young. They're still growing up, but I think they look pretty promising. Excited to see what happens in this new tank, this new line of shrimp. And these are the new yellow Neos. Believe it or not, there are 5 buried females in here right now, the last time I counted. So I'm super excited to get these guys up and going. That's pretty awesome. 5 buried girls in this new tank. So hopefully these guys will be booming here for too much longer. And these are the new Little Red Riding Hoods. And we've got a couple buried shrimp in here last I looked. There's 2 buried females. There's a nice looking saddle girl up there on the filter. And then, let's see if we can find any. I've put 3 juvenile long fin green dragons in here. And I'm going to take some of the babies, and I'm hoping that when all these tanks get established, I'm hoping to be able to breed long fin green dragons in all 4 of these new tanks once they all get established and are doing good. That's the hope. Alright, last but not least, since these are the newest shrimp and they come from an import source, we do this tank absolutely last. But these guys are looking so good. And I remember when I got these telling you guys that we'll be able to tell just how good these guys are by how the babies, because there's a bunch of little babies in there, see how they look. And so far, all but maybe 1 or 2 of the little tiny babies, and there's a lot of them, are growing up and showing color to be pretty good orange rillies. So I have super high hopes for these guys. I'm super excited to see what these guys do. And this is the last tank. Well, alright everybody. That's all the tanks. And so when I wrap this video up, that's going to be super long. And if you stuck around this long, wow, thank you. You must be interested in shrimp and water changes. So, like I said, not everyone needs to do this, but for my case, I feel like I need to. The way I raise my tanks and how my tanks are ran and what purpose they serve, everyone has a different purpose. For me, the purpose is to breed as many shrimp as possible because that's how I make my living. So that's what I'm trying to do, and this is what I need to do it. So maybe you guys don't need to do this. I'm sure not every one of you needs to do this. There might be some, but maybe you can get some ideas on how to speed up your water changes faster by seeing how I done this, especially those with lots of multiple tanks. So thank you guys for watching. Bye.